And hello everybody, it's Super Metroid Fan here today. I'm sorry for my recent lack of content, however, as a sort of makeup apology, I got myself a discounted, but guaranteed to be official, Magic the Gathering booster box here. So this is for the newest set that recently came out, Shadows over Innistrad. It's been out for a little bit, came in a couple months ago and stuff. It's an okay set, it's not one of my personal favorites. I would have preferred, while I was at that card store, to be able to pick up a set of, Eternal Masters, obviously, because Eternal Masters is brand new and it has a lot of awesome cards in it. Great set. I love those Modern Master kind of style stuff when they come out. Even with the bad pulls that I got from my Modern Masters 2015 unboxing, but still, it's a good set because it has a lot of cards that I'd be interested in because it's a lot of the older stuff. And just in general, I would have liked to be able to get it. And if I wasn't going to get on that, I was going to try to go for an M14 box, but also the place that I purchased them from ran out, so I unfortunately had no option. So interesting. Usually these booster boxes have a little paper slip that kind of details some of the stuff about the set, but this one doesn't. That's interesting, I suppose. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to crack the first pack. I haven't checked any of the prices relatively recently. I know back when the set first came out that the new Avacyn that came in this was like 40-something bucks originally, and then she got dropped really hard. So for those of you that don't know Magic, I'll quickly cover this just to be able to help for you. So in a pack, you get about 15 cards with a chance of a foil. Within a booster box, you're bound to get 3 or 4 or so. Every set can, relatively, it changes between commons and uncommons. But in this set in particular, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 commons. These 9 commons will be on the top. And we have 1, 2, 3 uncommons. Then we get our rare. We get one of these flip cards. And that's strange. I didn't get a flip stand-in. Usually they give you a card to stand in whenever you get a flip card, because these include the stand-in. But I guess not. Nothing? Oh, well, that's kind of good, I guess, for me. I'm going to separate the uncommons over here. Commons are commons. I'll look through those later. You also get a guaranteed land, and sometimes you get a token or you get a piece of trash card. Literally does nothing but acts as a stand-in. So our first rare, we got Welcome to the Fold. 2 colorless and 2 blue. Madness. X blue blue. Autofocus, if you will. Hello. Autofocus is disabled, I guess. That's kind of weird. Gain control of target creature if its toughness is 2 or less. If Welcomes the Fold's Madness cost was paid, instead gain control of that creature if its toughness is X or less. Madness is an ability introduced in this set in which if you are to discard a card by any means, you may instead pay its Madness cost. Madness is typically a little bit cheaper, a little bit more expensive than the card, and when you cast things from Madness, they get sent to the exile and then put into the graveyard. And basically the Madness cost allows you to cast the spell but discard it, so it turns anything potentially into a instant. I just got, oh, this is not half bad. I got Drown Your Temple, one of the new lands. Right, tap it to produce 1 colorless mana, which they did that whole colorless rework. 3 colorless, return this from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Good for sacrifice land effects. Nothing I'm gonna use. Another, this time it's a common actually. Transform card. I got a land and I got another clue. Yeah, that's not half bad. First 2, nothing amazing. Typically, as you go through your booster box, you will start to get better and better rares. Now, if I say I don't really like this set, why would I go through the trouble of purchasing it? Well, because there's some stuff in here for a couple cards that I do want to try building, like a blue-black zombie deck. Oh, hey, I got so I got an uncommon transform, and then I pulled a rare transform. That's another thing I like about the set. It may give you the chance for foils, but it also gives you the chance to get another rare. In particular, this one is Sage of the Ancient Lore, 4 colorless and a green for a star human werewolf shaman. His power and toughness equals the number of cards in your hand. When he enters the battlefield, you draw a card. And then if no spells are cast during the last turn he was on the field, transform him. When he transforms, he becomes Werewolf of Ancient Hunger. Werewolf of Ancient Hunger is a star vigilance trample. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in every player's hand. Yeah, real quick, he goes from 60 to 180. If autofocus will work here for me, no, I'm just gonna have to manual it. And no, that's not it. Hang on. I got this. I'm sorry if I'm tinkering around with this so much, because I would just like you guys to be able to know what I get. Just a little bit less. That's not half bad. And on the other side, this is what he comes in as. and I did get a transform card to represent him. Terribly sorry about the cut there. Something was happening in the background I had to take care of. I got a token card. No land. Oop, I just broke the microphone. I'm sorry as well. So what I was trying to talk about with the stand-ins is you get these if you get transforms usually. Now what these do is you mark on the little bubble here, right, what the card actually is, and you have the card set off in the sideboard. You can mark it down here as well, the power and toughness, and on the back it's a regular card, because transform cards, as I already did show, Sage of the Ancient Lore right here, he is a regular card on the front, but on the back he's also another card, so if you're not playing with sleeves, these guys give it away. So Magic invented those little sideboard cards right here that list off what the card is, and you just mark it off. So they are one-time use, but that's just how you simply do it. And for the regular rare, we have Asylum Visitor, a 1 colorless, 1 black vampire wizard. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player has no cards in the hand. That player draws a card and loses 1 life. Well, I draw a card and lose a life. And it has a madness cost. That's kind of interesting. I mean, with madness and delirium and other things that are in this set, you are prompted to want to discard cards. I won't even bother with the focus, actually. I'll leave it as it is, because there's no real good reason to keep tiddling with the focus if I'm just going to throw you guys the rares, basically. Because I'm not even bothering looking at my commons, because the commons are literally here nor there as far as I'm concerned. So I got a common transform and I got another stand-in. They do differ. If you get a rare, they should give you a rare one. If you get a common one, they will give you a common one. Got a token. I'm surprised I keep getting tokens. And for my rare, I got Burn from Within. This card is interesting to me because it is the first card to be able to remove indestructible while dealing damage. So red, X, deal X damage to a target player or creature. If a creature is dealt damage this way and has indestructible, instead remove indestructible from the creature until the end of the turn, basically. And it does get exiled if it does die. Now the thing about indestructible is typically it means if the creature be dealt damage, it does not die, meaning if it gets shrunken while it has 0 toughness due to damage, it does go to the graveyard. The beautiful thing about that burn card is you can put 0 into it and it removes indestructible, which is actually really cool because it's 1 red and remove indestructible. Unfortunately, it is just a sorcery. If it was an instant, it would be a lot better, but I'm not going to complain. It is not a half bad rare because it does remove indestructible, and I did pull a foil this time, a foil transform of all things. I got another token and a land. This is an uncommon transform. We have 3 colorless, 1 blue. Sorry for my shaky hands as well. A human insect flyer, 3/2. Not half bad for 4 mana. Beginning of your upkeep. I'm trying to read the card while showing it to you guys. Put the top card of your library into your graveyard. If an instant or sorcery card, transform him. And when he transforms, he becomes a 5/4 flyer. Not that good. Nothing I'm going to be using, but hey. Foil is a foil. I'm not going to complain. The regular transform was an uncommon, so that doesn't really matter. And here I got Traverse the Unveiled Land. 1 green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your library. If there are 4 or more cards among cards in your graveyard, search your library for a creature card or land, reveal it, put it in your hand. Wow, that's actually really good for 1 green. That's probably cheap, though, just because it is a Delirium effect. And Delirium is another ability introduced in this set. Madness does come from older stuff, but Delirium is fresh and new. If anyone knows older Magic cards, Threshold, in my opinion, is better, because Threshold is simply 7 cards in the graveyard. Delirium is a variation of Threshold, where you have to have 4 different card types in the graveyard in order to activate it, which are basically creatures, instants and sorceries individually, enchantments, artifacts, and lands. So it's not half bad, because they do have cards that self-mill in this set, like a crazy amount actually, but like it's not really too big of a deal, you know. You may as well have just brought Threshold back, because Threshold, you could just make cards that give serious mill effects to the person that has it, and it doesn't really do too much bad. So I got another clue token, another stand-in. I believe that's for a common. Oh no, that's for an uncommon stand-in, my bad. And I did pull another foil. Another card here for a foil. We have 2 colorless, 1 black for a human rogue, just a simple 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, makes everybody's creatures, opponent's creatures give -1/-1, and then Delirium, if an opponent is the one, or at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if you have Delirium active, he gives that player's creatures -1/-1 until the end of turn. For the rare, we got Epiphany at the Drown Yard. X and a blue, reveal the top X plus 1 cards of your library. Separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of the piles. Put the pile they choose into your hand. The other goes into your graveyard. Pile cards are a little weird. I never really bothered to look that up on them. And when I say that, I mean if an opponent can look through the pile. I believe they can, but not honestly very sure about that. If they can, it obviously makes piles a little bit harder to do, but at the same time, not really. Another clue, another stand-in for an uncommon. That's not even a foil, so we're not going to bother. And, oh, hey, this is a funny one. 2 colorless for Brain in a Jar. 1 colorless, tap it, put a charge counter on Brain in a Jar. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Brain in a Jar from your hand without paying the mana cost. 3 colorless, tap it, remove X counters from Brain in a Jar, scry X. Interesting card. I wanted it because it's a funny artifact, and I like my artifacts. But beyond that, it's nothing too big. Like I said, funny, but, you know, not a big deal. I'm fairly sure no one really wants that in the secondary market of Magic cards, because that doesn't sound like it would be anything that standard or modern players would really want to use. It's simply kind of one of those things you get to joke around with your friends, and it's lots of fun for that. Another foil, another stand-in, got a common, transform. Oh, I believe this is a half-bag card myself. 1 colorless and 1 green for a 2/1 human druid that can tap to produce green or black. He has Delirium. As long as you have 4 or more card types among graveyard, he gets Death Touch. 2 for a 2/1 mana producer. Doesn't have haste, so not a really big thing, but Death Touch I guess can be nice. And then the foil that I pulled, 1 white, gain 5 life, sorcery. Very nice. Not half bad. There is an old card from, I believe it was Future Sight, that had what is it? Like suspend 10, 1 white, you gain 20 life. You could also play it for 8 mana, but at that point, you know, if you get it in your first starting hand, hey, in 10 turns between me and you, I'm gonna gain 20 life. So you better kill me fast. Did I pull another foil? No, I did not. I got a uncommon transform. Oh, hey, it's the Gargoyle. For this, we have Game Trail, which is a red-green land. It taps to produce red or green, and when it enters the battlefield, you may reveal a mountain or forest card from your hand. If you don't, it comes in the battlefield tapped. So it's a nice land. If you start with it in your starting hand, you have 2. Not half bad, actually. If I had a red-green deck at the time, I would put it in there. I've been thinking about making a green-red. I used to have one for dragons with the Takra, but once that fell out of standard, really, because I was using the older Atakra compared to the newer one, because she made combat damage with dragons so deadly. Once she fell out, really, that deck was not useful for standard, and I wouldn't really want to use it with my friends, because it wasn't that fun, so I just put it away. So I just pulled a Thing in the Ice. This card used to be like 10, 20 bucks for 1 colorless, 1 blue for a 0/5 defender, or 0/4, my bad. Thing in the Ice enters the battlefield with 4 ice counters on it. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, remove an ice counter from it. If this card has no ice counters, transform it. It becomes a 7/8 Kraken horror when it transforms into this. Return all non-horror creatures to their owner's hand. That was not a half bad thing to get as a free pull. I got another one of those things that goes as a foil, and I got a Mythic. Mythics are kind of just a slightly more powerful rare in most cases. So we got 4 colorless, 2 white, descend upon the sinful. Sorcery, if I can read it, thank you. Exile all creatures, Delirium, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying on the battlefield if there are 4 or more creature types among cards in your graveyard. So basically, a board wipe for 6 mana that gets around indestructible, and you can get a 4/4 out of it. I mean, it could be better, it could be worse. Honestly, if it was 3 colorless and 2 white, just that 1 mana less, it would look a lot more tempting to run that to me personally. Considering, you know, indestructible is not all too common, especially in standard, and amongst my friends, we don't really have too much indestructible. If we do, it's relatively rare. And, you know, there's Wrath of God for that. So we got Shard of Glass for the foil, 1 colorless to put down an equipped artifact. A creature gets +1/+0. Whenever it attacks, you may put the top card of your library into your graveyard. No, top 2 of your library into your graveyard. And it's a 1 equip cost, so 2 mana to get an equip off. Another transform. For the rare, we got Devil's Playground, 4 colorless, 2 red. Put 4/1/1 red devil creatures onto the battlefield. They have, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to target creature or to target player. A fun little sorcery to mess around with friends. Nothing that's incredibly menacing. All at the same time. Honestly, not a half bad pull, just because it's a funny card. But devils are kind of a weird thing, where they're very small creatures and they don't really do a lot of damage. It feels like Magic's trying to make the difference between demons and devils relatively clear, which they have. But honestly, devils nowhere near as fun as demons. Demons are all in black and some touch of red, whereas devils are, as far as I know, exclusively red, and they really just don't show off much promise to me. No foil this time, but we got Slayer's Plate, 3 colorless for an equipped artifact. Equipped creature gets 4, or +4/+2. Whenever equipped creature dies, if it was a human, you get a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Not actually that bad. +4/+2 for 6 mana equip, and potentially getting a free token. Can be good in a human deck, which used to be, like, they had actually a lot of humans came out specifically in Innistrad that gave I think human-oriented effects, but in this set not so much, considering the madness that descended upon the plane. I'm now talking in stuff that a lot of you guys probably don't really care about. So haha, yeah, random stuff that no one understands. Big whoop. Alright. Nothing too good. Oh, hey, I got a crimp token. I haven't seen one of these in a while. These are just kind of, occasionally you get stuff like this. You get a little crimple in there. I just opened the packaging and it was like that. I'm glad it wasn't the rare, because if it was the rare, I might be upset depending on what I got. Random transform. We got Rattle Chains. 1 colorless, 1 blue for a 2/1 flash flyer. When this creature enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn. Excuse me for that relatively awkward and loud noise that I just made. But so far, I haven't really seen anything that I would really write home about. Because, you know, a lot of the stuff that I'm pulling is relatively cheap. And I did get this for a very small discount, so I'm not going to complain too much. And it's not weighted or anything, you know, it's just simply I got it for a small discount because of the place that I go to. So for the next rare that we have 1 colorless, 2 white, always watching. Enchantment, non-token creatures you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. That's actually not half bad in a heavy creature deck that has white, because vigilance for 3 mana, they put, what was it, Brave the Sands from, was it Karns? Yeah, it was in Karns, so it's out of standard now. That's 1 colorless, 1 white, uncommon enchantment. It gives all your creatures, all of them, including tokens, vigilance, and the ability to block an additional creature each combat. So that's better than that, but at the same time, +1/+1 makes it a totally different comparison. So now we finally have pulled something that is worth writing home about. We have pulled Sorin Grim Nemesis, 4 colorless and 1 white for a 6 loyalty counter Planeswalker. His +1 ability, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to its converted mana cost. -X, Sorin Grim Nemesis deals X damage to target creature Planeswalker and you gain X life. His ultimate, which is a 4th turn use if he's not hit, -9, put a number of 1/1 black vampire and night creature tokens with lifelink onto the battlefield equal to the highest life total among all players. That's actually not a half bad pull. I do know someone that is interested in using Sorin in a white-black commander deck, so I'm actually happy that I pulled that. Potentially we'll be seeing him later today as well, so I'm not going to complain about that. That was actually a pretty good one. Finally getting some cards worth at least a higher amount of face value. He's running right now, I believe, about $10 on the secondary market. Here's a fun little card that we just pulled. 2 colorless, 2 green for an instant. For each token you control, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that permanent. If you run a lot of tokens, which there are a couple token cards in this set, double the number you control. For me personally, I don't really have a heavy token deck, but I know people that are running heavy token decks. People that run squirrels, which are an old, funny little thing you can run. You could easily pick that card up because it is actually less than $1 right now, making it run, you know, fairly cheap. No foil that time, but we got 1 colorless, 1 green enchantment. I think it's Cryptolithic Rite. Yeah, right. Creatures you control off tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Honestly, in a multicolor deck that includes green, that is really good, even if you only have a small amount of creatures. Just because, you know, green has a lot of ability to create either a small amount of creatures or to really make big, fat creatures happen. So, it's actually not that bad. No foil that time. Random transform, and I did pull something I kind of was interested in looking at for my upcoming blue-black zombie deck. 3 colorless, 2 black, from under the floorboards. It has a madness cost of X and 2 black. Put 3 2/2 black zombie creature cards onto the battlefield, and you gain 3 life. If from under the floorboards madness cost was paid, instead put X of those tokens onto the battlefield, and you gain X life. Relatively not half bad of a card. Well, not even relatively if you run Madness in the zombie deck, which there are a couple toss into the graveyard cards, but at the same time there's also a lot of exile to play these creatures that came out this set. I started building the deck off of the pre-made that you can get, just so I would have a relatively not half bad base, so I can't say too much. So that didn't have a foil, but instead we got 2 colorless, 2 green for a 3/3 trampling worm. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 more cards among types in your graveyard, put 3 +1/+1 counters on Soul Solar. So it's basically 4 mana for a 3/3 trample, which isn't half bad considering the basic rules of Magic from like the really old sets. But also, if you have Delirium active, he will incrementally grow every one of your upkeeps, making him actually not a half bad card. That's a pretty good one, especially for someone like me. I happen to have a deck that he will be going right into. So bonus points there. Thank you for actually giving me a couple more things that I actually will be using instead of random cards. Alright, so we did get a rare, we got a random transform, we got a foil this time. It's another Slayer's Plate. Just going to show off, you know, get a little bit of the sheen showing. There we go. Bump the microphone again, I'm sorry, I'm wearing my headphones. So we got a card that, this is interesting, because my friend James actually did want this, and he did pull this in his pre-release packs, because we both went to the pre-release. Part of the reason why I got this is discount, by the way. 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 black, Anguish of the Making, exile, target permanent, is it? Yeah, target non-land permanent, you gain 3 life. 3 mana to exile any non-land permanent and gain life. That's good, because they did just release Utter End in Torrents of Tarkir, which was 2 colorless, 1 white, and 1 black to exile target non-land. And that card ran for, like, I think it was $20 or something, like, at pre-release time. And it was just ridiculous seeing that, you know. Oh, this is a funny one that we just pulled. Nothing really of note. I'm going to try and pronounce this for the life of me. Triskiadicophobia. 3 colorless, 1 black. Enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose 1. Each player with exactly 13 life loses the game. Then each player gains 1 life. Or each player with exactly 13 life loses the game. Then each player loses 1 life. This card is very interesting for that 13 factor. They don't really have a lot of cards that directly make players lose the game, especially nowadays. They had a lot in some older sets, but that's a rare effect nowadays. And actually, ironically enough, the name of the card, I believe, Trixidophia, is like an illogical fear of the number 13, which I find personally just very quite funny. It's, like I said, a very interesting card because it has the whole lose the game immediately mechanic. So here now, we pulled another card. 2 colorless, 1 white, instant. Exile any number of target creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This is good for cards that have enter the battlefield effects. I do run a couple commanders that have those, and I love Conjurer's Closet because of that. I'm referring to an older card for those of you that are here just to watch this new stuff. And honestly, I am building a new commander deck that's has white in it, and it does, its commander is a enter the battlefield effects. There might be a couple cards in there that I'm going to grab that have enter the battlefield effects. So honestly, I'm not half upset about that pull. I will be using it. We did pull another foil. So here we got 2 colorless, 1 green, Byway Courier, 3/2 Human Scout. When it dies, investigate. Investigate's an ability they introduced in the set as well. Basically, whenever you kick off an investigate effect, you put down an artifact that has 2 colorless mana, sacrifice the token, and then you draw a card. For the rare, we pulled To the Slaughter, 2 colorless, 1 black. Target player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker. Delirium. If you have Delirium active, that player sacrifices a creature and a planeswalker. There are like 4 planeswalkers in this set, so honestly, pretty good effect actually, because there are 4 planeswalkers. And the Jace of this set is very annoying with his ultimate. The Jace of this set was originally like about a $40 card, and he dropped heavily in price. He's not even really close to double. He's not double digits anymore. And his ultimate, it takes, I believe, 4 turns to kick if you keep building him up every turn. And it's quite literally every time you cast the first spell of your turn, counter it. Now we've pulled another rare, 4 colorless, 2 red for a 4/4 Flying Angel. Whenever a source an opponent controls deal damage to you or permanent you control, you may have this deal 1 damage to the source's controller. Quite good, honestly. It's pretty cool. I don't have a red-white deck either, and if I were to, I would do a red-white Angel deck. I wouldn't necessarily use that new Avacyn, because that new Avacyn is a little weird to use, in my opinion. I'm not saying she's bad, I'm just saying she's a little weird to use. So, my personal opinion, I don't know. I might make a white-blue, or not a white-blue, I have a white-blue deck already. I'm saying a red-white deck, because there are some very nice red-white cards that exist, and I do have an interest in them. So now we have 1 red for a 2/1 creature. Every vampire card you control has Madness, equal to its mana cost. Well, each vampire creature card you own that isn't on the battlefield has Madness equal to its converted mana cost. Basically, if you're running a vampire deck, you want to make sure you have him, especially if you're going to include red, and you're going to include that Olivia. Because that Olivia is not half bad, actually. She works really well with this set. And what I'm hoping for, speaking of sets, information about Eldritch Moon is going to come out soon. This is being recorded the 17th of June. Totally just dated myself right there. Hopefully I'll be putting this out by the end of today for you guys. I'm honestly hoping they add a lot more to the abilities. Maybe not Delirium, maybe not Madness being active anymore because the Avacyn being removed from the game, quite literally. But that's not a point for here or there. We have right now 2 colorless, 2 red for a 4/9 Flying Haste Angel. If a source would deal damage to you, it deals double that damage to you instead. If a source would deal damage to this, it deals double that damage to this instead. Big fat angel that makes you take double damage in exchange for a fast, aggressive flyer with lots of toughness. I mean, I can see it's useful. It's 4 for a 4/9 flyer, but the double damage, it's just, oof, boy, that's a rough one to deal with, you know what I mean? We did just pull another rare transform. I'm going to put that to the side because I believe that's actually a pretty good one. Random, no one really cares about you. Transform, because I already have like 4 of you. So first off, we have Tamio's Journal. I actually did kind of want this. It's a 5 colorless legendary artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you investigate. Tap, sacrifice 3 clues, search your library for a card, and put that card into your hand. Finish off your library. It's an artifact that literally over time lets you build up enough cards to search. So what we pulled is Startled Awake, 2 colorless, 2 blue for a sorcery. Target opponent puts the top 13 cards of their library into their graveyard. That's an incredibly powerful effect. 4 mana, 13 cards. Yeah. 3 colorless, 2 blue. Put Startled Awake from your graveyard onto the battlefield transformed. Only activate this ability anytime you can activate a sorcery. Then we have Persistent Nightmare. It is a 1/1 Skulker. Whenever Persistent Nightmare deals combat damage to a player, put it back in its owner's hand. Essentially, you mill someone, you get a 1/1. I'm going to hit you with a 1/1 you can only block with a creature with 1 power. You take the damage, I put this back in my hand, and then I repeat this process as far as I would like. I don't know how much that is running on the secondary market. Like I said, I haven't checked the prices of cards before I started. But I'm hoping Startled Awake there will be running a high price. Otherwise, I'm going to be kind of sad because it is a not half bad card. For our next rare, we didn't really get anything worth mentioning again. However, it is a zombie, so I'm kind of happy. 3 colorless and blue for a 3/3 zombie horror. Skulk, which that's an ability they introduced here. The creature can't be blocked by creature with greater power. Skulk's pretty useful for small creatures. At the end of your upkeep, you may discard all cards in your hand. If you do, draw that many cards. Useful for setting off Madness, useful for setting off other cards that I have in my zombie deck, or hopefully will have in my zombie deck. Yeah, it's not that bad. So again, not really running a lot here. That's what I'm looking for, unfortunately for me. But I decided to buy this to spoil myself and hopefully give you guys something to enjoy. So we got Markov Dread Knight, 3/3 for 3 colorless and 2 black flyer. He's a Vampire Knight. 2 colorless and a black, discard a card, put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature. He's okay. He's cheap as well because he is available in a pre-made deck. So, you know, we're really not pulling much here, and I don't mind because I'm getting just a good bit of cards, which is okay. You know, it's always fun to pull really nice, expensive cards, but this set right now, since Eldritch Moon is coming out, is a little bit down in value, so that's why I didn't mind grabbing it, because it was also discounted. Next up, we pulled Ordic, Lunaric Marshal, 3 colors and a white, for a 3/3 legendary creature human soldier. At the beginning of combat, if you control a creature that has any of the abilities listed on this card, all your creatures gain it. The abilities, I think, are... No, does he have Shroud on there? Let me see. Just a little bit real quick. It first designates First Strike. That is saying the same is true for Flying, Death Touch, Double Strike, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Skulk, Trample, and Vigilance. And surprisingly, this card is incredibly cheap. That's what makes him very powerful, is that he's cheap and he does so much. The beauty of him is it requires one creature to have any ability, and practically any ability, and all your creatures will gain it. A few abilities that are older are not included, and a few abilities that are specific to a card are not included as well. These are all basically, he's a combat buff. He gives all your guys almost a consistent combat buffing. The problem is if he's removed from your battlefield, you lose that factor, and if he dies, well, same thing as being removed from the battlefield, really. So we pulled another rare land. We got Fortified Village. Tap for green or white. When it enters the battlefield, you may reveal a forest or plains card from your hand. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. Not half bad. Rare lands are pretty good to pull. They're usually worth like at least $5. Unless you have fetch lands. Fetch lands are lands that you tap, pay, I believe, 2. Search your library for any card that counts as a one of 2 basic land types, and then put it directly onto the battlefield. Shuffle your library. Which, you know, I actually have pulled some of those myself because I was playing around the Dragon's Time. I have 2 polluted deltas. Actually, that's all I managed to pull, but that's not half bad. We got, what is this? Nephilia Moondrakes. 5 colorless, 2 blue, 5/5 flyer. When this enters the battlefield, target creature gains flying until end of turn. 4 colorless, 2 blue, exile it. Creatures from your graveyard. Creatures you control gain flying until end of turn. Kind of like the souls that they put in M15. The souls, basically, you could pay a certain amount of mana, do an effect. If they're in your graveyard, you can pay the mana cost and exile the creature, fire the effect one more time. So they weren't really anything too outrageous, but at the same time, they were pretty cool. Alright. We're approaching the end here, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, I do not believe I'm going to be pulling really anything worth my time, based on what I have so far, unless one of these 2 packs are going to give me something absolutely mind-boggling. We did pull a foil this time. We got a Tormenting Voice, one of my personal favorite draw cards for red. 1 colorless, red, sorcery is additional cost to cast this. You discard a card, draw 2. There is a version of this called Wild Geist, which is the same thing but for 2 red. I like that one better because you can more easily use it. And we have Engulf the Shore, 3 colorless and a blue. Return to their owner's hand all creatures with toughness less than or equal to the number of islands you control. It is an instant. Mono blue decks can use that efficiently, and it is pretty good. I believe it's only opponents, right? No, just all players. Again, reducing its usefulness in my opinion. We did pull a rare transform, and I did pull a rare that I actually am looking for, but it's a dirt cheap rare, so it's really nothing too amazing. For the regular rare, we pulled Prize Amalgam, 1 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black for a 3/3 zombie. Whenever a creature you control enters the battlefield, if it entered the battlefield from your graveyard or was cast from your graveyard, you may return this creature to the battlefield from your graveyard at the beginning of the next end step. Next end step, yes. Honestly, pretty cool one, but nothing incredible. And then here we have something I haven't seen before myself. 2 colorless, 1 red for a 3/2 haster. Beginning of your upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform this creature. He's a human rogue werewolf, and then he transforms into a pure werewolf. Whenever a werewolf enters the battlefield under your control, you may transform it. 4 colorless, or not 4 colorless, 4/3, and of course the return. Honestly, actually a really useful card for werewolves. And the sad thing about werewolves is they don't really have like a commander or anything you can use right now. So werewolves, hopefully everyone's hoping that in Eldritch Moon, including me, because werewolves are pretty beastly. We're all hoping, you know, there's going to be a new legendary werewolf that they're going to include in the set that will make it like worthwhile. And for the next rare, we have 2 colorless and a green, 2/2 trampler. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control becomes a target of an instant or sorcery, you get a 2/2 green wolf creature token on the battlefield. Also good for werewolf decks. Not really too much else to offer. And for our very last pack here, which will be closing this for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Have we pulled anything worthwhile? We actually just did. Ladies and gentlemen, we actually have just pulled a very nice card that I actually was hoping I would get another one of, because I did get one off of someone. Narini the Harbinger. 2 colorless, 1 red, 1 white, 4/4. Loyalty counter, Planeswalker. +2, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. -2, exile target enchantment, tapped artifact, or tapped creature. -8, search your library for an artifact or creature card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It gains haste, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. And with that, we conclude our battle. Not battle, I should say, because that was the previous set. With that, we will conclude our Shadows of Innistrad box. Unfortunately, not the most incredible pulls I have ever done in my life, but I cannot complain when I pulled Narini and Sorin. Startle Awake is a card that I have been interested in as well. In addition to that, I did pull a few Transform Rares, a couple things that I will be using in my zombie deck, and a couple things that make me consider other decks. I'm just hoping I pulled things that are at least slightly worth my time. And honestly, this is a pretty good stack of stuff that I did manage to get out of this booster. So in a roaring conclusion, just for you all to know, if you would like to hear my personal opinion on Shadows of Innistrad, it's a fun set if you're interested in Standard, because Standard always has fun and interesting things going on, but nothing that ever really makes it useful to a majority of regular players that don't really play Standard. You know, me and my friends, we all play friendly games. We don't really care for what we're doing. There's some really cool combos you can pull off with older cards, combined with newer cards. And honestly, this set isn't half bad, but at the same time, it's not half good, in my personal opinion. Would I spend the time to build a Standard deck? I kind of would, because I do enjoy being able to play cards with people, you know, of varying ideas and a multitude of different ways that they would like to enjoy playing Magic themselves. I personally find a lot of fun in just sitting down and playing with new people, you know, learning how new players get into the game, learning how older players like to do stuff with new cards. All of it like really interests me. So, final take on this set: if you're in Standard, go ahead and buy it. That's usually my verdict when it comes to these newer sets. If it has cards that you have older decks, or you have decks that you would like to build because of it, don't buy a booster box. Typically, you want to buy stuff that'll give you a majority of what you want, like the pre-made decks or like dual decks that come out for new sets are usually what you'd much rather should get. But if you don't want to spend a bunch of money to pull one card and you would like to have a multitude, go ahead and buy a booster box. There's no other reason. So, yeah, with that in conclusion, that is my final verdict when it comes to Shadows of Innistrad. I thank you all so much for watching and enjoying, hopefully, me doing this little unboxing for you all. And we will be more than likely doing another unboxing when Eldritch Moon comes out. Hopefully, a little bit more closely related to it being a brand new set, which I believe I should be able to. I should be able to grab myself a booster box when the set's still fairly fresh. And maybe someday I'll get my hands on a box of Eternal Masters and do an unboxing of that. Which I did buy a pack of Eternal Masters while I was there, and I got just a $3 or $4 or $5 card. Nothing really important. But yes, thank you all so much for watching. I'm a Super Metroid fan, and also just a small little add-on here. I will give you all the transforms plus the foils. Over here we have all of these uncommons, and then over here we have all these commons. So this is the final pulls from the box. This is a stack of over 32 rares. I think I'm at about 42 because I think I pulled 36 rares because 36 packs in a booster box. I'm fairly sure I pulled 6 transform rares roughly, so I think this is about 42 cards or so. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that's all I have to say about Shadows of Innistrad. This has been an unboxing for it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy, leave a like. If you didn't enjoy, leave a dislike. Either case, please give me your comments down below about what you think, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye everybody.